My question relates to the balance between greenfield sites and brownfield sites. To what extent do you have any influence over the decisions by government inspectors in particular, and of course influence over the developers themselves, to go for filling up brownfield sites in priority over before they start encroaching onto the greenfield sites? Are we going to end up at the end of this time with all of our brownfield sites satisfactorily filled before we start looking at where we can find additional green fields?
Number one, Peter, it's absolutely the right question to be asking. Number one, we hardly have any brownfield sites, unless they are brownfield land, previously developed land. So that's land that whoever owns it doesn't want to use anymore for what it is being used for, whether that's shops, factories, housing of some description, or anything else that they want to offer up for redevelopment. We have a brownfield register. The cupboard is almost bare. So whatever there is, we put forward. And you remember that hierarchy slide I put up right at the top of it was brownfield site, sort of town centre living, the centre of town, but wherever we could find a brownfield site and see it develop, we would. And in fact, some years ago, probably talking 10 or 12 years ago now, our biggest proportion of development in that year or two was brownfield sites. It was about 80% of everything we did was on brownfield sites. Hence, they got used up. And then we're left with, sadly, greenfield sites or sites on the edge of settlements. In terms of what influence do we have over planning inspectors, well, I suppose all I can say is that almost every planning appeal that we have fought in recent years for substantial development on a greenfield site, we have won. We've won the lot. And we've done that despite the fact, and it's a whole other debate, but despite the fact we don't have what is called a 5-year housing land supply. We don't have enough land allocated for housing for the next 5 years, but we have still won all of those planning appeals. The Newgate Lane ones come to mind, for instance, and others in the Meon Gap, all around the borough, we win the appeals. So we must be doing something right, but that said, we have to allocate land for housing, and sadly, the majority of that will be on greenfield sites. I suppose if you think, well, are they actually going to get built out? Well, we talk very excitedly about the councils building everywhere. In the last couple of years, we haven't actually built anywhere at all. Hardly a brick's been made on hundreds of new houses in the borough. Our build level is at the lowest it's ever been. It's not just pandemic related, it's over the last few years. And it's not just Fareham. Portsmouth, I think, so 2 or 3 years ago, how many did they see built in the year? 80. That was it. City like Portsmouth, it was a dense city outside London, 80 units, that's all they saw built in the year. Hopefully that's helpful.